Hi, y'all. I'm Barry Hack. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that everybody wants to know about today: leadership. Leadership, they want to know good qualities, bad qualities. What makes a leader so good and what makes a bad leader so bad? What is he not doing that the good leaders are doing? And so, today, more specifically, we want to talk about servant leadership. And with that being said, I want to give you a couple examples. They have ranchers and farmers and stuff, but ranchers versus shepherds. A rancher will go out there and he will herd the cattle. He'll drive them to where he wants them to go. He doesn't go out in front of the cattle and say, hey, follow me. He drives them. He shoos them in there. Now, a shepherd, yes, I know we have shepherds that use dogs and get them into circles, but I'm talking about shepherds from of old. Jesus talked about, the sheep, they know my voice. They know what I smell like, what I look like. When I come in, they come to me. It's because I spend time with them that they know what I look like and smell like. And so a good shepherd will go into the sheep pen and open it up and will lead them out. He'll be the one carrying the shepherd's cross and showing them the way of where to go. And that's what I talk about when I'm talking about leadership, servant leadership. So you have leaders that drive, and you have leaders that show the way. And showing the way is a better type of leadership, and that's what I want to speak to specifically today. A good leader is also a good follower. A good follower is someone that, listens to those in authority that are in authority over him and follows their direction and pretty much does what they ask them to do. A good follower can be a president, can be a king. A king is under direction of God. He answers to God. The president has to answer also to God as well, but he has the Senate and the House of Representatives, and he is supposed to be a good follower and to be that great a leader. So today's quote comes to us from Jane Fryer, and she says in her book, Servant Leadership, Setting Leaders Free, she says, servant leadership is based in one's identity, which then shapes attitudes, values, and behaviors. There's a lot of other resources out there that you all can look at today for help in growing your own leadership skills. Andy Stanley is one of my favorites. He does a lot of messages on leadership. Speaks to it fluently. He's written some books. One of them, Next Generation Leader, a great resource to look at and to read. The Way of the Shepherd, probably one that's not well known out there but should be, is written by Dr. Kevin Leman and William Pentak. These are both small reads. They're easy reads, something that you can finish in a few days or a day if you're a reader that reads really quick. If not, it may take you a week. But they're good reads and they'll help you with becoming a better leader. Today we're talking with two people and discussing them. First one's in John chapter 13. Obviously, this is Jesus. Jesus is going to wash his disciples' feet. He gets up for the meal. He takes off his outer cloak, coat, jacket, whatever you want to call it, and he wraps a towel around and he goes to wash his disciples' feet. And when I say disciples, I'm talking about all of them, even Judas Iscariot. And you're going, wait a minute, Jesus, why wash his feet? You know he's going to betray you. But Jesus did, again, the merciful, unconditional love that he portrays here speaks to all of us. It speaks to me, because what I would have done if I was in that position, all right, Judas, get out of here. I know you're going to betray me. I ain't washing your feet. And you got to think about the feet that he was washing. They didn't have shoes and socks on and, went for a little walk and came back and just, had a slight smell. We're talking about walking through filth, animal poo, and I'm just not going to get into it, but just to say they weren't very nice and clean. That's the whole reason why they needed to be washed. And this job that Jesus performs is that of a servant. Again, servant leadership. The lowest servant in the house was supposed to be doing this. And here it's Jesus. You got to imagine those disciples' looks on their faces had to be astounding. I mean, here it is. They called him the Messiah. They know that he is God's son, and he's washing their feet. The lowest job around. He's doing it. They had to be just flabbergasted. And again, the only one that talks to him, Peter. Gotta love Peter. Jesus finishes. He gets up. I would love to have a picture of that time. They had to all just been looking like, what happened? Jesus says, you realize who I am, and you realize what I just did for you. Go and do it for everyone else, for one another and for you and for everyone else. That's it. And then he goes in and we go on and he's off to be crucified and judged and everything like that. So he sets them an example. The next example we have is almost 3,000 years ago. Well, a little over 3,000 years ago. The person we're going to talk about is David. And when I say David, I think the first story that comes to your mind is, David and Goliath. How did David get to that point to do that? That's not the story we're going to talk about today. But David had great servant leadership skills. And so one of them we're going to find out here is in chapter 22, verse 2 of 1 Samuel. It says, everyone that was discontented, I'm adding discombobulated, in debt, just disgusted with life, came to David. And you're thinking, God, if I'm going to build an army, how about I get some strong men, some men of encouragement. I need some leaders around me, God, some powerful leaders, some men that are just, all that. But that's the men that God gave to David, and for a reason. These men David develops, and we're going to find out in later chapter what happens with these men. So what a disaster it could have been. It could have been all these men are strewn dead along the hillside, and David himself is, captured and tortured and eventually killed by King Saul himself. But that's not what happens. Because of David's encouraging, upbeat, and lifting servant-like attitude, he makes these men into warriors. So 2 Samuel 21, beginning with verse 15 and reading to the end of the chapter, you'll see David's men go out and kill the brothers of Goliath. I mean, David in chapter 17 of 1 Samuel goes out and he gets 5 stones. Why 5 stones? One of them to kill Goliath, the other 4 representative, again, alluding to the fact that Goliath had brothers. David's men go and kill these men from David's leadership, his training, his encouragement. Wow, how powerful is that? Then in addition to that, 2 Samuel 23, you have the list of David's mighty men. It doesn't just say mighty men that were with David or mighty men that assisted David. They are considered David's underlings, his mighty warriors. And let's just go through a couple of the things they did. One guy, it says, killed 800 men in one encounter. Now, he didn't have a sniper rifle. He wasn't there with an Uzi or an M60 and throwing grenades. He didn't drop a bomb. He had a sword. And in one encounter took on 800 men. I am a big fan of Chinese theater. I watch a lot of Kung Fu. Even Ip Man doesn't take on 800 men in one encounter. He takes on maybe 5 or 10. But 800 men in one encounter, this guy killed. Amazing. Another says he stayed in the field while everybody else fled. Everybody else runs from the battle lines. He stays and he fights. And he fought so long and so hard that his hand froze to the sword. Imagine that. Now, I've played video games for a little bit, and my hands get kind of tensed up after gripping that controller for so long and killing those terrorists. But I got to tell you, 800 men, and then this other guy, his hand freezes to the sword. Wow. What kind of leadership was he following? Tells us they killed lions, broke through enemy lines, killed hundreds of enemies in single skirmishes, and more, much more. What an amazing leader David was. Side note, I want you to pay a little bit of attention to verse 39, to the name given. We'll talk a little bit more about that guy. I'll just give you a hint, Uriah the Hittite. David's servant heart took men who were in bad shape, and he led them on to great victories. Jesus served his disciples side by side, day by day, through spiritual battles. And again, look at how the disciples turned out. How they started the church, 12 men, and it turns into millions upon millions of people years later. A servant leader involves getting your hands dirty, living and loving and encouraging and giving of yourself to the people and those around you. It involves you going through unforeseen challenges that come your way. And yes, You may not always make the best decisions, but try and learn from those mistakes and failures. Grow your leadership skills, because one thing I know, God has got your back. When you're out there this week and you're thinking about how you can be developed, how you can better develop your leadership skills, think about those great leaders in your life, ones that you know of. What do you admire most about them? Make a list. Make a list of what you find most amazing about their leadership abilities, and then use that. Hope y'all have a blessed week. We'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.